Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 6 of The Legend of Korra Season 2 called The Sting. And this episode is interesting in that Korra is only in it very briefly. This is really more of us getting a chance to put the spotlight on Mako. And I actually really like this. It's been a while since we've seen an episode like this on, well, I don't know about Korra, but it's certainly been a while since we've seen one of these in the Avatar universe. So let's just kind of get right into it and kind of clear off the stuff first, the small stuff first. First of all, not really anything to say about what's going on with Korra. As soon as I realized that she has amnesia, I'm just like, oh god, amnesia? Really? I mean, not that it's not an uninteresting idea. I mean, what is an avatar with amnesia going to be like? Is she going to know how to do bending? And this also opens up some interesting possibilities because Korra's biggest hindrance to her learning to be the avatar tends to be Korra herself, her brashness, her arrogance, her tendency to dismiss that which she isn't good at immediately as something that's not important. Now, granted, Korra has somewhat gotten over this to a degree, but it is still her own personality is still one of the biggest things that's holding her back from this connection to the spirit world. And it's only recently that she's come to the understanding of why this is important. So if Korra is basically turned into a blank slate, while that might hinder her bending abilities, it does certainly leave her open to new spiritual possibilities. In other words, a good whack to the head from an evil spirit might actually be just the thing. And of course, the whole thing with the evil spirit raises the question of what was Unalaq doing in the spirit world. Now, some people are kind of wondering if he might have sicked that spirit on Korra, but that doesn't make any sense because when he comes out, the first thing he does is ask his kids where Korra is, and he seems pretty upset when he is told that she's dead. Now, granted, there's a possibility they might have sent the spirit to somehow capture Korra and thinks that, oh, the stupid thing screwed it up. But, I don't know. I think that might be just too much of a straight-up villain ploy for Unalaq at this point, who, as I've said, has really been more portrayed as just being someone who probably has good intentions at heart, but is just willing to go about them in an extremely wrong manner. Now, with that said, our main focus really this time around is mostly on Mako with some secondary stuff on Bolin. And it also kind of gets us much more into the questionable circumstances going on around Varric. Now, let's just talk about Bolin. Now, Bolin, like I said, until recently has not really had a very clearly defined role in the new status quo. Now, here, he seems to have found his niche. He's an actor, he's popular, he's enjoying the fruits of success, he's doing way better than he ever did in the pro bending circuit. But he's definitely holding it against Mako that when he came to his brother for advice, Mako kind of gave him, like, you know what, you made your bed, now lie in it. Or basically told him, like, you caused this problem, figure it out for yourself. And now when Mako comes to him asking for help, Bolin throws it back in his face in a way that's really pretty hard to justify. Mako was totally right in that Bolin had caused the situation himself, and that Bolin was the one who needed to deal with a way out of it. Now, that said, it wouldn't have killed Mako to give Bolin at least a little bit of advice, beyond perhaps being upfront with her. I mean, that was clearly not the kind of help that Bolin was asking for. On the other hand, Mako was also in the right in not doing any more than that than he did because, as I said, it's Bolin's fault. And I think I might have just contradicted myself there. I probably did, which is strange because I've not actually had any alcohol tonight. Anyway, well, Bolin is definitely being kind of a jerk here, and especially since there's more at stake than just his relationship with his brother. Asami is somebody that Bolin cares about, and you'd think that he'd be a little bit more willing to help her out even if he wasn't exactly on the best of terms with his brother at the moment. So here we see Bolin being a pretty selfish guy, and it's pretty obvious that this is going to come back to bite him in the butt later. Now, Asami herself is in an interesting position here. She is so desperate to save her company, and she is, as she said, this is really all that she has left in the world, with her mother dead and her father in prison, that she is apparently willing to go along with giving dangerous weapons to known criminals. Yeah, I'm certain that could in no way, shape, or form come back to haunt you, Asami. I mean, have you really thought this out? Granted, then I guess she figures, well, that covering it up later has certainly got to be preferable to just having the entire company go under. And of course, it's also pretty questionable with Mako cutting a deal with the Triple Threat, especially given his position as a police officer. But if you look at real history, there's more than a few examples of cops and criminals cutting a deal with each other to deal with to create a mutually beneficial situation beyond just good old-fashioned bribery. And of course, the Triple Threats do end up betraying them, and we get a really nice fight between Mako and the Waterbender from the Triple Threats. And again, I kind of like that this is a little bit of foreshadowing of what's going to happen. Here at that part of the episode, we see Mako versus a Waterbender. And of course, this is moving on to the bigger stage of Mako versus a Water Tribesman. Varric does not seem to be a bender, but still, the old fire versus water conflict. Although this is one of the few instances where I can think of where it's actually fire that's the good guy. It usually tends to be the other way around. But, whatever. And I really do like how the show sets things up that if you're paying attention, you can really see how Varric is playing a very, very good chess game here. He's bought a controlling interest in Futures Industries, the source of basically the #1 tech company in the world. He's using Bolin to create propaganda, basically, that's getting the Southern Water Tribe, to back him big time. And he's also already an extremely rich guy with a shipping empire. This is a man with power and influence, and he clearly wants more of that. You have to wonder if maybe Varric isn't setting all of this up to have Unalaq and Korra's dad bump each other off and maybe put himself in a position as the new king or de facto leader of the Water Tribe. I mean, that's speculation on my part, but, well, if that void were to open up, and Korra, being the Avatar, is not really in a position where politically it would make sense for her to take that on, even if she is technically a member of the Water Tribe nobility, her position, I think, as the Avatar sort of disqualifies her from real political office. Or at least, to that high a degree. But anyway, somebody would need to step in there. And, well, who would you turn to? Well, the most powerful and influential person around, most likely. I mean, there's plenty of examples of exactly that happening in history. So if that's the case, well, then what Varric's doing does start to make a little bit more sense. Not a whole lot to say about Asami kissing Mako. Now, this is really clearly just a case of her reacting to the only person who seems to be willing to throw her a lifeline in what really has to be about the most desperate time in her life. And I do like how they handle it. They both realize, wait a minute, that was a mistake. This is not a road we want to go down to. The ship has sailed. They handle that awkward moment very maturely, and I like that. I like how this didn't turn into some big screaming match or old moments being thrown in their faces. We got to see plenty of that last season. Here we see these two characters who have matured as people and handling this situation in a mature fashion. And let me see. Speaking of handling things in a mature fashion, I still got to come down on Lin for really not even being willing to properly hear Mako out. Now, granted, when he does try to get confirmation of his theories from the ship captain, it doesn't work out. But again, everybody is just completely dismissing Mako because he's a rookie. Now, I can understand the detectives who probably don't know Mako that well doing that. But as I said last time around, Lin should know better. Lin knows that Mako is a very, very capable person. Now, granted, he's new as a police officer, but again, this is somebody who has proved himself. This is somebody who can shown himself to can stand on a level playing field with her in terms of standing up and fighting the good fight, fighting the toughest people around. And here she's just completely dismissing it because Mako's new at his job. And this is just, to me, seems incredibly short-sighted on Lin's part. Now, again, yes, Mako's a rookie, but this is somebody who has proved to you that he is a worthy ally to the Avatar. He's on par in that regards to Lin's mom and these other people who are in her life, these people who are now legends. Only one of them is a living legend, apparently. Well, no, Zuko and Katara are still living legends. And she is really, really, in my book, not giving Mako the kind of credit that he deserves. And if anybody should know better than that, it should be Lin. But honestly, if you pay attention to Lin, there is a certain immaturity to her character. I mean, Lin's all this time, years later, she's still kind of giving Tenzin grief about breaking up with her. And she even mentions that she basically probably did some serious property damage to Airbender Island when they broke up. Now, how in the world she didn't end up in jail for that, I don't know. But still, this does sort of speak to an immaturity, a pettiness in her character, which is really sort of a somewhat surprising thing to see in somebody as Lin's age, but still. It certainly is interesting and telling, but again, it doesn't really speak well of Lin as a person. And it just boils down to she should be willing to at least hear Mako out properly. And frankly, that's really all I've got for you guys this time around. It was certainly nice to see Mako in the spotlight, and I think this episode did a lot to really advance the story, and I thought was a really good service to Mako as a character. But like I said, just the whole clichéness of amnesia and my frustration with Lin kind of weigh it down a little bit for me. But anyway, guys, that's all I have for you this time. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. Till next time, take care and have a good one.